Hi everyone, I'm Tom and I'm going to be talking about Mons and Mages. Ignore my flailing hands from the past. I've already done an overview video and a playthrough video. If you would like to see the game in action in short or long form, then there's plenty of options for you. They're linked in the description, you can check them out there. This is just me talking about the game with it in the background. If you are interested in what I think about my time with the prototype, I was paid to make those videos, bear that in mind. And yeah, the whole thing is in the actual gameplay itself. With that out of the way though, I really enjoyed Mons and Mages. Why? I'll say why. Well, I really like the economic system for a start. You're drip fed only like one runestone at a time, so you've got to make important choices as to when you are going to meditate. Can you afford to lose the creatures that are out on display to spend turns, essentially turning money into more money later on, to the point where you can get a really nice income coming on that's temporary though, but at the same time you can get tricks, but also monsters that will be able to supplement your meditation as well. That'll give you some bonus actions and things, and there's a lot of nice spells like that, nice abilities from the creatures that will let you do all sorts of things. It's not just about attacking, it's about moving the staff, it's about positioning of the monsters, it can be about giving you meditations, it can be about stunning. There's loads and loads of different things, and it's the combination of all of those that works out really nicely. And then the monsters themselves, there's a lot of variety, even though in a two-player game, which is all I've seen it as, a solo game is simulating a two-player game as well, you are only seeing 3 of the origins out of the 5 that are in the prototype currently, at least. So even between that, even in those 3 origins, you are not just getting the different spells and interactions between the creatures themselves, but also of the origins as well. It's nice that you've got loads of different things to think about of which creatures you are pulling in. You're trying to build up a tableau of these lovely creatures, but it's a bit of a mix of what do you need right now as well as in the future. Being able to move the staff extra steps, being able to put more mana on your creatures, being able to just do a load of damage from getting the dragons, for example, can be a massive boost to you, as well as, those things tend to get more and more powerful if you try and if you double up on those same origins. But also a mixture can work out really well, because you're getting out, say, like a really powerful one and then getting to charge it up with hopefully mana repeatedly so it can keep firing off its quite powerful destructive spells. There's a lovely variety of just monsters that will just activate doing their spells, monsters that can do an important thing when they come out. Even just adding some growth onto monsters that can use it really effectively can be huge, even if you're not so bothered about the monster itself. And then the relationships are a nice touch as well, both in the game itself and the decisions of which ones you want. They might desperately want to be with a certain other creature, or really not want to be with another creature, or that creature being in the market makes them more expensive. But if you get both of them, they can do a really nice ability. But as you can see in the dragons in the playthrough, if only one of them comes out and you take it, is it as worth it if the other one doesn't come out? It might not even come out in your game. But it's a nice little thematic thing, that as well, the kind of relationships between the monsters. And each origin, Chibong coming on the screen has reminded me, each origin has got one kind of special creature that doesn't take part in the deck. And so Chibong's from the Ghost deck is Froggo, that we'll see in a minute, and they've got a nice ability that the further Froggo is away, Chibong will do more damage, and Froggo's ability is to move himself potentially away. You could bring him back if you wanted to. But yeah, there's nice things like that. As I said, the positioning of your monsters is important. They want to be far away from each other. There are monsters whose class spells will add mana to the creatures either side of them, which can then fill them up with mana and start chaining all of these abilities off. And speaking of that, like there's all those things that can trigger just when the monsters come out, but on top of that, you are trying to fill them up with mana, so they will activate first their class ability, which is the same, but there's a lot of different class abilities, from adding mana onto things to doing a load of damage. And after that, their specific spell effect that's different between all of the creatures will fire off, whether it's a really damaging thing, whether it will, those monsters that put mana on the creatures either side of them, you want them next to really good powerful creatures, so they can power them up with mana, but their abilities tend to reward them for the adjacent creatures that are now full of mana. So there's a really nice timing to all of this stuff as well. As I said, firing off these combos, but working out the most effective way for it, because the kind of core trigger for these things, there are all sorts of abilities and things, but the core thing that's moving is your staff once every turn is moving to a new card. You've got all of these dead cards that don't do anything at the start, and so are wasting activations of your staff. As you bring creatures out, they go away, and you just keep activating creatures. So you are incentivized to, bring creatures out as quickly as possible. Bring more and more out, so you've got more abilities. The staff is always activating something, but at a certain point that can kind of hold you back because your staff is taking longer to get to your best creatures. There are other ways though. It's not just the one step a turn. There are abilities that will just move the staff. There are abilities that will move it and activate it, so it can go off more than once in a round as well, because the staff is adding mana to creatures to try and get to their limit and activate all of those abilities. It's what makes them do their damage in the first place, which you can just go for a simple system like that of just getting some heavy hitting monsters, loading them up with growth, and trying to get the staff round and round to them. That could be a way of doing it, but so there's so much just in, say, the 3 origins that you've got in a 2-player game to come up with loads and loads of strategies. As a core thing for us, we don't really like to play any games where we are fighting each other at all. The rulebook of this does emphasize that the conflict is kind of softened in this, that it's, we're wizards in a competition, we're not fighting each other really. It's like, doing damage is like reverse point scoring, so it's kind of like you are racing to a target rather than getting the other people down to 0. And you are not targeting people with things as well. When you're doing damage, when you're handing out stun tokens and stuff, they are handed out to everybody, so you are not specifically targeting a person, which does soften it as well. But say in a 2-player game, that doesn't matter, because you're never targeting anyone specific in a 2-player game. You've only got one person to target, and that kind of is one of the roots of it. So as a multiplayer game, we still wouldn't be into it because of the fighty elements, but that's why I'm so glad it's got a solo mode where you are fighting against just a bot instead, that has got a bit more of an emphasis on catching them all. And so I really like that is an element, not just in general because I love solo gaming, but also there are certain mechanisms or kind of genres that we wouldn't really go into, but I can, because they've got these alternative modes where I don't have to think about fighting other players, because hey, there's a AI controlled one to fight against instead. But the playthrough is there, or the overview if you just like a quick run through it, so you can see how it all works. Everything that's the players are doing would be the same as you in a solo game as well, even though it's a 2-player playthrough. And you can see how some of those interactions will happen with a few of the origins and things. The campaign is linked in the description as well, so you can see all of the final stuff, how to get hold of it, how to make it happen. If you'd like to see more from me, there are hundreds more playthroughs on the channel, including one of Shoes Tactics, which is from the same designer as Mons and Mages. It's a print and play roll and write game that I'd highly recommend. Thank you very much for watching this though, and I'll see you for the next game. Bye everyone.